Welcome to the Dr. Shawn Tierney Podcast. My name is Shawn Tierney, and I am a neuromusculoskeletal synologist. I treat athletes and high performers. My goal with this podcast is to help you make better decisions regarding your health, athleticism, and all aspects of life. Here, I'm both a student and a teacher. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, this is Dr. Shawn Tierney here with the Dr. Shawn Tierney Podcast. Super honored to have Trevor Donovan, actor. Now I found out musician, definitely martial artist.
Learning the martial arts.
Yeah. And fortunately for me, a little bit of a paddle, more of a water athlete in some respects too, as well as many other things. So just honored to get a little piece of life shared with this fella and see what we can learn about each other in a few minutes and a few moments here today.
Perfect.
All right. So just Trevor, I know you just kind of introduce yourself and you kind of tell me about, hey, maybe the first, kind of walk us through the first decade or two of your life and how you got to be who you are and
cool
when things started for you.
Absolutely. So my name is Trevor Donovan. Actually, my full legal name is Trevor Donovan Neubauer, but I go on stage as Trevor Donovan. So I grew up in a little town called Mammoth Lakes in California. Born in a town south of there called Bishop because our town actually didn't have a paternity or a maternity ward. So, I grew up in a tiny little house that was actually built in 1915 originally as a gas station and tackle shop, and it was converted to a living space. It was interesting because it was so old. It wasn't, log cabins are typically horizontal logs. This was a vertical log cabin with mortar, with cement between here. And in the wintertime, we'd get high winds over 100 miles per hour consistently every winter. And during those nights, some of that cement would freeze and break through, or there would be little spots in the windows where it would allow snow in my bedroom. So I'd wake up quite often with snow on my bed.
Oh, wow.
Which I've fallen in love with cold plunging in the last 6-7 years. And I think I know where that came from. Sure.
Feels like home.
Yeah, exactly. So growing up in a small little town like that, grew up outdoors, grew up doing everything you can imagine outdoors, racing BMX. I was on the swim team, which I know you grew up competitively swimming as well. Yeah. Grew up at one of the best ski resorts in the world, Mammoth Mountain. So I grew up on the mountain. I ski raced for 10 years, snowboarded competitively for 4 or 5 after that. I have a younger brother. We both were on every sports team from swimming and BMX to baseball, soccer, football, you name it. We did it. Rock climbing, mountain biking. Just a real outdoor upbringing. Lots of broken bones, lots of stitches, lots of, memories and stories, and great childhood.
Oh, that's a great childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you're coming up, so you're in all these different sports, what stood out to you, like as, from your sporting youth, just with swimming, was there an event that made a difference for you, had an impact on your life, or?
If you're swimming, I was breaststroke and butterfly were my 2 strong ones. I didn't have a whole lot of endurance, so 50, 100 meter max. Beyond that,
that was me too. Well, at least after I got to be a teenager, as a young kid, I could do it all, but once I got to be a teenager, like, nope, no more long stuff. This is no fun.
No, I never had that.
No.
Never had the endurance. Never really yearned for the endurance. I love the sprinting type of stuff. Yeah. But, growing up doing all the sports that I did, not only team, but individual sports, I think the biggest thing, you really learn a lot of self-discipline, and you learn, respect for showing up, for putting in effort and the results of that effort, and I think that what's transferred into my adulthood from that, I still participate in sports. I still ski and snowboard and surf and mountain bike and rock climb and everything. But what I've applied to my career and just my daily life is that sort of self-discipline and knowing and sort of delaying self-gratification, right? I've really gotten into cold plunging the past several years. It does have its scientifically proven health benefits mentally and physically, but it's also one of those things where I have to mentally, like I did this morning before the sun came up, it's raining. And the last thing in the world I want to do is get in 40-degree water, but I know what I'm going to feel like right after. Just like if you're going to go to the gym, I don't want to go to the gym today, but you know you're going to feel so much better afterwards. And delaying that gratification until after you sort of work for it. And for me, that's just a life lesson, and it's given me discipline to pursue my career in acting when, I want this big role right now. Well, you got to put in the work. And, if you do and you're persistent, that gratification will come. But you got to put in the work first. And it's about mentally preparing yourself for it. So along with my parents' encouragement, my parents' teachings, sports really taught me that sort of self-discipline.
Oh yeah, it's powerful. Yeah, I mean, I guess we all love it.
Yeah,
we all like being active.
Yeah. Well, and it's easy basis, to it's easy to look for comfort.
Oh yeah,
especially as an adult, your body starts to feel a little bit, and you just want to be. I want to be in a warm bed, or I want to take a hot shower. I just want to sit and do this, and that's great. You need those things. You need that relaxing time, but there's also something else that's very powerful that keeps you motivated by putting yourself in a state of discomfort every day, whether it be a workout, whether it be a cold plunge, whether it be a conversation with somebody, a conversation you don't want to have, but you need to have, whatever it is,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Good advice. Good thinking. I think it's what all athletes are looking for. They're used to that consistency, just get up and work hard. But I think there's also something in a sport where it becomes enjoyable because you kind of get this feeling for it. You kind of get this, it's almost like a meditation. Mm-hmm. You get into a flow state in certain sports. And once you get to that little flow state, you're chasing that feeling again because it feels good, Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what sport it is. I know you're just in martial art, kind of a situation just for fun recently. And so as you progress through sports, I mean, obviously ski racing, that's a big thing. Now, were you professional at that, or were you sponsored athlete?
So sponsored, I started when I was 6, ski racing. First year, I was the worst on the team. By the second year, I was winning races. I was always kind of a late bloomer and not a slow learner, but I thought a lot about what I was learning. So that kids would progress and I'd struggle. And then once I got it, I would get it.
Yeah.
And I've been that way my whole life. But my last couple of years, I was pretty much the last kid on the ski team. I was traveling. It was me and my coach, and he was prepping me to be on the U.S. ski team. So we were traveling and going to ski races with the U.S. ski team, and I was on my way to the U.S. developmental team. And after 10 years of racing, I mean, I was right there. I was going, and I quit because I was burnt out, which really bummed my coach out. And to this day, I see him all the time. He's like, man, you would have been so good. But I knew there was something in me that wanted to venture outside of that, because pursuing that would have meant no college. I would have been going travel the U.S. ski team and try to pursue the Olympics. But I was really burnt out. I spent my whole childhood doing it. So I snowboarded competitively for a few years. I wanted to go to college. So had I not done that, had I pursued skiing, I don't think there's any way I ever would have ended up in entertainment as an actor. So, looking back, I think I made the right decision.
I think it happens. It happens a lot in sports. I think a lot of it is, people just get overtrained. Kids get overtrained, they get overpushed, and at a certain point, they're just gonna quit. I like to see coaches be better at not overtraining people, but it's easy to just overtrain yourself. Yeah. So who can you blame? And just his life, what happens.
Yeah, and I gotta say, my coach was awesome, man. He was like, and I was pretty much on like a home study type thing. So I'd have to take my schoolwork with me, and he would help me out with that as well. And he was very encouraging. He wasn't too hard on, but he pushed me enough. It was me.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't for a few years, I didn't love it. Yeah. It was just, I was good at it. Yeah. And I was going in a direction, and I just was like, well, this is what I got to do because I'm good at it, Right. And it's scary to turn your back on something you're good at and go, well, maybe I'll be good at something else. Maybe I won't, So that was kind of my conundrum going, if I quit this now, am I going to regret it? Because I didn't see how far I could actually go. Or am I going to regret doing it because I didn't get to go out and try new things?
That's a good that's a good turning point, though. I see that for a lot of people because, once you can be really good at something, then, it's scary to get away from it, but you do something else and you're really good at it. And you're like, wait a minute, I know how to be good at things.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is kind of coming back to this self-discipline that puts in you like, well, if I work hard enough at anything I really want to do, I can get good at it.
And it's okay to suck at the beginning. You know, it's like, oh, I suck. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Because I know how to get good at things.
Absolutely.
You know? You can move forward with that.
Yeah. And that should be a motivator. Like, I suck, but I know I can get better. I just need to work harder. And I need to figure that puzzle out. And how am I going to get to that point I want to be at?
That's a really good gift to give to young people, or to anybody really. You know, hey, if you know how to, you'll get good at things. You may suck, but you're going to get better as time goes on. Yeah. And, you know, be patient with yourself. A lot of things are a survival game, you know, and
everything's a survival game.
You know, sports. I mean, it's like if you last long enough, you get good.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just get to recognize this is not your path in life. You know, I think I've had that happen to me too.
Absolutely.
So then the next sport was, you know, snowboarding. Mm-hmm. That was a professional sport. It's a sponsored sport as well, or was it just a fun sport?
I had a couple little small kind of hand me out sponsor. I was a pretty big guy for snowboarding, and I had ski raced the last several years while a lot of kids were getting really good. I got pretty darn good, and I was doing well in competitions, but I was also breaking a lot of bones. I knocked myself out 3 times in 1 year. One time in a contest. Well, so the weekend before the contest, I was preparing for it off this jump, doing this trick. It was like a rodeo 540. So it's like a corkscrew kind of upside down 1.5 spin. Fell, broke my wrist, went and got it casted up, and then competed the next weekend with a cast on my arm. Same jump, same trick. Luckily I had a helmet on. I don't remember anything, but I spun and slammed my head. The ski patrol at that jump happened to be a kid I went to high school with, and he told me months later, after the fact, that when he came up on me, he couldn't find a pulse, and he couldn't tell if I was breathing. So it was a code orange or something. And so it was one of these things they thought maybe I was dead. I don't remember. I mean, those next 2 weeks of my life were just fuzzy little moments. So that particular one, along with all the other injuries, kind of was like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to keep pursuing this?
Yeah.
I still wanted to finish college. I was going to an art school. And so I moved back down to LA to finish my last year of art school.
And what was your major? What was your focus? I know
graphic design and advertising.
Graphic design, but at the same time you got into a little bit of music, a little bit of guitar, a little bit.
Yeah. So prior to that, on my way to college, 17 years old, I bought a acoustic guitar, and my roommate, my first year of college, happened to play the guitar fairly well. So I was kind of learning from him. His little brother was in a punk band, so I'd go watch them play, and then from there I'd play around with other people and was in a couple garage punk bands. Mm-hmm. We never made $1 or anything like that, but we never made $1 or anything. So it was more of a pastime, more of a hobby. But when I got to LA, I started modeling, going to acting class, because that's what you, well, my modeling agency started sending me out on commercial auditions. I was so terrified in front of the camera, I couldn't talk, couldn't say my own name. And so my commercial rep was threatening to drop me if I didn't go start taking acting classes to get comfortable. So I did, and I booked a few commercials, but acting classes, I hated it. It was scary getting up in front of people and talking. And but I got to say, after about 1.5 years, things started clicking, and I started to enjoy it. And I started noticing in my personal life, I was much better with engaging people, actually having eye contact with people in conversations, which I had a hard time before that.
Yeah, it's a very personal thing, acting. I mean, it's just like he just gets into you, who you are, and your issues, and it's no joke.
You learn about yourself along the way, and then you're exposing yourself. Like when you go to an audition, this is what I got, this is who I am, and 9 times out of 10 they go, thanks, and you can see on their face they're like, this kid sucks.
You know? Well, it might be just that who you are is not what fits their script, right?
It's hard. But it's hard to.
It's a lot of.
You take it personally.
Yeah, it's a lot of rejection, right?
Yeah, you have to embrace rejection in this industry. You have to just go, this is what I got. If you like it, cool, I'll work. If you don't, maybe I'll get the next job, or maybe you'll remember me and I'll be right for the next role. Exactly. You know, those things happened a lot too. But it takes a while. It takes some perspective, and it takes. There's a learning curve to embracing that. So, yeah. It's a tough business.
But you get to, one thing that I see is you get to be a bunch of different things, right? I mean, you get to learn how to do, a sport. You learn how to, to maybe fly a plane, drive a car, a lot of interesting things what have you learned as a result of being an actor that you would have never learned,
So I got to apply ski racing to a movie. I got a movie coming up. I'm going to be snowboarding as well. It's going to be an action comedy and stuff. But the coolest thing I got to learn, when I was a kid, we actually had horses in our backyard. There was a couple cabins behind our house. One of the women owned a bunch of horses. They scared the heck out of me. And when I was 4 or 5 years old at like a summer day camp, this horse bucked me off and I landed in one of those paddle cactuses.
Ouch. Yeah, that's a hard day.
Yeah. And so I just hated horses from then on. Oh, and then the people taking me home, they put me in the Jeep in the passenger's seat, start driving down this dirt road. They didn't close the door, so the door opens up and I fall out of the car on the way down the road too.
With cactus spines
with cactus spines all on the right side of my body. So it was a traumatic day. And I didn't get on a horse again until I was 34 years old.
How old were you?
4 or 5.
Oh yeah, that's intense.
Yeah. And they just scared me. They're big animals. So there was an audition for a really cool miniseries for the History Channel called Texas Rising that they were interested in me for, but they're like, you have to be proficient at riding because you're going to be in Mexico for 5 months, and you need to do your own riding. And my character was actually like the proficient horseback rider. So I started going to Simi Valley 3-4 times a week, take horseback riding lessons, and every day I would be driving home calling my dad, going, man, I got in over my head. I can't do this. I don't even want to book this role. It was so scary to me. After about 3 weeks, something clicked. Just like in the past when I was a kid, all of a sudden I went, whoa, wait, I get this. And the horse I was riding, I kind of connected with. And then I fell in love with it. And then I booked a job and I spent 5 months in Mexico playing cowboys and Indians. It was like a childhood dream come true. It was so cool. And since then, I ride as much as I can. I try to get every Western job I possibly can. Got to shoot one in Montana over the summer. And so to answer the long way to answer your question, I got to learn to ride horses very proficiently. And you do. You get to, I learned how to use guns in a different way. You learn fighting techniques. I get to go to places I never even would have thought of going, to go shoot movies, and you get paid for it. It's such a cool job.
So you're kind of like a student, in some respects, I think you get great teachers. It's not like they just get the average teacher. You get some great, instructors, I imagine, right?
Yeah. And the people you work with. I've had the honor of working with Bill Paxton, with Ray Liotta, with Brendan Fraser, with John Voight, James Caan, Melanie Griffith, like these, and I get to sit there in scenes and work with them and learn and absorb. And to your point, it's like throughout in my profession, I get to learn things and I get to grow and progress as a person. And I'm really fortunate for that. Yeah.
It's one of the best things about it, I think.
It's
just
wonderful.
Observing it,
Yeah,
it's just great to be a student. It's great to keep learning. And if you make money, it's like almost at a certain point, you're having fun, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm always having fun. Even the worst day on set is still better than any job I've ever had.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely.
So there was a thing we skipped. I think there was a surfing thing, because your dad had some surfing stuff, and somewhere in there you became a surfer. Right?
Yeah. So back to growing up in Mammoth, we're 6 hours away from the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, my dad in the 60s, he grew up in East LA, and he used to ride his bike 20 miles to the beach to go learn to surf, borrow a surfboard in Manhattan Beach. And he fell in love with it at 14 years old. He moved out 15 or 16 years old. He lived in a cave in Dana Point before it turned into Dana Harbor. It was Killer Dana. It was a wicked surf spot before they built the harbor.
Yeah, that's those cliffs right there.
Yeah. So he lived in a cave one summer there, and then got a job at a surf shop in San Clemente and lived in the closet of the surf shop.
So I mean, How do you live in a cave? Is that like legal? How do you get away with that? I mean, was that legal at the time to live in a cave?
Well, what would it have been? 55, 1959?
Yeah. Okay.
1960?
It was okay to live in a cave.
I think so. You look at it now and you just see houses everywhere. He's like,
yeah, I know exactly what you're
anywhere.
talking about. Yeah.
It was just empty bluffs, and you could buy a lot of land for $30,000 or something, and which is worth like $6 million now.
Oh yeah.
So he just he fell so in love with surfing, he did anything he possibly could just to be by the ocean. And he was there the last day Killer Dana was surfable. And there's an article that he's in Surfer's Journal and everything documenting the last day of Killer Dana.
Oh, wow.
So that love he had for surfing. Then he moved to the North Shore of Oahu, and he was a big wave surfer there. And he got on the cover of Surfer Magazine in 1968. And then it started getting popular and started getting a little crowded. And he got over the crowds. He flew to San Francisco, hitchhiked from San Francisco to Mammoth to visit a buddy of his that lived in Mammoth, and fell in love with Mammoth, tiny little ski town, fell in love with the skiing and stuff. So hitchhiked back to San Francisco, went to the North Shore of Oahu, grabbed his few belongings, I don't know, a couple of pairs of board shorts or something, whatever the heck he owned.
Yeah.
Flew back, hitchhiked back, and now it's in the middle of the winter, and he ended up staying in this old abandoned barn, sleeping in this little sleeping bag in the middle of a snowstorm on his way back to Mammoth. And from that day, he met my mom pretty quick after that in Mammoth, and they bought the house that I grew up in. And he started, framing houses and learning how to draw and design houses. He started his own business, had my brother and I, and started raising a family. So just really didn't surf for almost 20 years. When I was about 12, I want to say maybe 10, we started taking trips down to San Onofre, and so he wanted to teach my brother and I to surf. And I fell in love with it too. I think my dad and I have a lot in common in that respect. So we started going surf more. Then we started making trips every Christmas down to Mexico, a little place called Todos Santos in Pescadero. And then that was our routine every year. And then eventually he bought a little plot of land, built a little palapa house at the beach. And that was our Christmas every year, 2 weeks down surfing. Every Christmas morning we were out in the water. And I really fell in love with that. There's something similar between enjoying the mountains, whether it's skiing or snowboarding or hiking or whatever it is, and being out in the ocean. There's something spiritual. There's something connected to Mother Nature. Yeah. And I think I really vibed with that with surfing as well, because as soon as I graduated high school, I went to Santa Barbara so I could be by the ocean so I could surf. And I went from there to San Diego so I could be by the ocean and surf. And then from there to Manhattan Beach, be by the ocean and surf. And now I'm in Newport to be by the ocean and surf. And so it's either I got to be at the ocean, or I got to be at the mountains. There's something soul filling about being out in Mother Nature. So yeah. And to this day, I just, Costa Rica, Mexico, California, go surfing. And
yeah, the nice thing about California is you can work here. I mean, but you have a city and you have the city life, but then you have wild nature right out your front door, and you just walk out into the ocean. It's an honor to, who gets to do that? Not many people in the world. I mean, a lot of people would like to, so it's just great to be able to be.
It's fantastic. You're absolutely right. Be at the ocean. You have access to the city, so you have access for opportunity and job, any job that you want. And actually, where we are now in Southern California, you can surf for a couple hours in the morning. You can get in your car, and in an hour and a half, you could be at a ski resort and you can go ski and snowboard.
Oh, yeah.
Same day.
Yeah.
I mean, spoiled rotten.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's a California experience.
Yeah. People say California sucks. Come on. Yeah. Come on.
It has out. It has its benefits. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So then, how we met, it was through, some injuries you had, some things with the neck and nerves and those are probably from the original snowboarding time.
Actually, no. Well, I have, you pointed out some like compressed disc in my lower back lumbar. That's definitely snowboarding stuff. But I herniated a disc in my neck, my C3, C4 rolling jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Big overeager guy rolled over on my head, and I just heard this like, just pop,
Oh
pop,
yeah.
pop.
Oh yeah.
and I lost feeling in both my hands. My right arm actually went dead for a while, and for 3 days I was in some of the worst pain. And I went to Karen Block, and she's got chiropractic and sports therapy clinic she had it in Newport, but also one in Long Beach. And I know you guys work together a lot and are friends. So she worked on me for a few days, and it wasn't getting any better. And so she referred me to you. And that's how we met. And you saved me, because I went to a couple doctors before that were insisting, after getting MRI and images, they were insisting on surgery. And I wanted to avoid it like the plague. And you got me out of there without having surgery. And I'm back.
It looks like you're back. For sure.
Yeah.
So that's my great honor to be able to help. It's just, and then to my surprise, I had a kind of a sporting event for me. It's like, I don't know if it's an adventure event or a sporting event. This race from Molokai to Oahu, and my partner, one of my partners, canceled. And so I think you were in the office and like, hey, would you ever want to, do a race from Molokai to Oahu?
You want me to tell the story?
You better tell the story. I don't remember the whole thing.
So in the office, you had mentioned that you race and stuff and pointed things. I didn't really grasp exactly what it was all about. Well, cut to me I'm up in Mammoth, and it's a couple weeks before this race, and I was up in Mammoth. I have an inflatable paddleboard that I just go cruise around on the lakes on, and I may or may not have a backpack full of beer when I do, and I'm just cruising. Well, you called me up and casually just go, hey, what would you think about doing a little stand-up paddleboard race in Hawaii? And then we could hang out in Honolulu for a few days and surf after. That's all you said. And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, sign me up.
Okay.
So you sign me up, basically throw my hat over the proverbial wall, so I got to go get it. And then I Google this race, and it's 32 miles, right, across the Channel of Bones, which sounds wonderful, between the island of Molokai and Oahu. And like I said, I'd only gone in these little flatwater still lakes, just cruising around maybe for half an hour casually.
I think we had a couple of weeks to get you trained up.
It was 2 weeks. I came down here. You lent me a board because all I had was inflatable. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. First thing I realized is these boards are narrower, and I can barely stand on it in calm water. And then we meet with Danny, and he takes us out in the open ocean. I'm like, well, I got great balance. I surf, I ski, I snowboard. It's not the same, because as soon as I got out there, I couldn't stand on for more than 3 seconds. And I immediately thought, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Got some training done and everything. So we went out and did the race. I have to be honest and say that I spent more time in the ocean than I did on the board.
Yeah, but you just almost bounced down and bounced back up. It's like, like a weevil or something.
Oh, my ego was taking over.
You were just like, you touched the water, you're right back up and going. I think you got better as it went on too.
I did. I was kind of learning as I went, because I didn't get enough chance to do the open ocean. But when you have waves coming in from different direction, it wasn't in my body yet. All those little balance muscles, they hadn't been trained enough. And no matter how hard I tried. So it was a challenging experience. And we were out there for 8 hours. And I remember at one point we had a GPS on us. We hit a current. We were going up current. We didn't move for like over an hour. Oh, yeah. So we were just paddling upstream.
Yeah, we're paddling upstream. Yeah, we had a good coach. We had Connor.
Yeah, it was great.
Connor on the boat coaching, and we had a
between him vomiting, he was coaching. For a guy who lives on the ocean, I didn't realize
the guy who won that race more than anybody else.
Yeah,
and
he got seasick.
Yeah, seasick.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Great guy though. He and his sister were on there helping us out, and it was.
And then you had cool. Shawn too, a kind of a motivating guy to be around. I think just in general, right?
Impressive human being.
Mulvaney, just a super good fella.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was an experience I really, really appreciate. But there were times where I was going, you MFer. You tricked me.
It's like the ultimate ocean adventure though. And it's like, you get out there, it's like, oh, it's really real.
It's real.
Yeah.
And when you're going, you don't see where you're supposed to be going for a long time. It's beyond the horizon. I mean, it's a long ways. But I'm really grateful to have been a part of that for sure.
Yeah, that was a great experience.
Could have done it, yeah.
It was a worthwhile ocean adventure.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. So and I think now we're going to do I think we're going to do a stellate block. I think we've had those before.
Yeah.
And that's Shawn is the guy that we went across the channel with. He's the guy that really made it, did all the research on it, put that stuff together. And so I think a lot of people get stellate blocks for performance enhancing, to think more clearly, make better decisions. So everybody has that kind of thing. But, who in life doesn't get beat up a little bit? It's like, I think being an actor, being an athlete is like, you're getting rejected, you're getting pushed around, you're getting, everything is quite intense, so I think we all need to get a stellate block every now and then.
Yeah, it's interesting. And there's my algorithm on my social media stuff is a lot of this health and wellness, and so much they're talking about the vagus nerve, right?
Right. Yeah.
And how you can massage it to kind of create the same effect. But this shot is that magnified 100 times.
Yeah. And you don't have to keep working on it.
Yeah.
So it just kind of gets you there.
But from what I understand too, there aren't many people in the country or in the world that are qualified to give the shot, correct?
I think there's quite a few people that are qualified. So, but I think that there's not a lot of people that are experts at it. And because most anesthesiologists are trained at some level to do that. Pain doctors are trained to some level to do that, but it's kind of a vulnerable area to be so far as, if you're a doctor working with somebody, if you're a patient, it's one of the most complex areas of the body as far as anatomically. So if you're not very, very comfortable, you're probably not going to like doing it. So there's very few doctors that have taken up, hey, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. This is how I want to help people. Because it really takes probably 4 years at minimum of pretty intense studying to get really well qualified to be like comfortable doing that. And part of that is just that everybody is so different, Like when Shawn was working on people, he was primarily working on special forces like SEALs, Delta guys, and I would say to him, like, everybody's so different. And he's like, what do you mean? They're all the same. I'm like, no, you don't get it. You have like the super normal people, like nobody can get through that SEAL program. You get through there, you're a super normal human being. It's like you get to regular people, it's really, really different. Like the anatomy is so different from person to person. And he's like, no, it's all the same. And like he got us out of school and he's like, oh yeah, it's really different.
It's different. Well, is that because they were all just athletically just like specimens of people? They're just
everything is just like perfectly normal, right?
To be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're all, everybody is different. I mean, even, but you could see everything, right. But there's a lot of differences, a lot more differences in the average person than in the super athlete,
Yeah, interesting.
Just super athlete, supermodel. There's some similarities. Everybody kind of has a similar body structure, so you kind of have this, this is going to be easy. Everybody's going to do good. Then you have somebody with a different body structure, just different style of person. And all of a sudden it's not so easy anymore.
How do you go about, so say you get someone on your table that does have an abnormal situation going on there, like how do you find out when you get the ultrasound on there, or can you kind of gauge it as you're looking at the person?
I don't really think that way. I mean, obviously either, if somebody's, once I look at the neck, once I look in there, then it's just a matter of, for me, it's not a big deal because I just like, okay, this is the thyroid artery, this is the carotid artery, this is the jugular vein, this is the radicular arteries. I just going to go through my protocols like, hey, okay, I just have to know where everything is at. And I have to know what everything is. So takes me a couple minutes. But if you're not used to, doing that, and something is so totally different, the physicians that I'm teaching just freak out like, okay, I can do this when you're here, but I'm not ready to do it when you're not here.
Copy that.
So usually they'll do it, take maybe a year or two before they want to do it on their own, just because it's a little intimidating, to know what's there, and you can't make a mistake. It could be if you inject, some anesthetic into the wrong area, it can be deadly. So you just can't make a mistake. So that having the doctor know that I cannot make a mistake, they really are mostly not overzealous and take their time to like, okay, now I feel really comfortable. I'm safe doing this, checking the ego. And then so that, I love those guys. But a lot of guys that have been in practice for a while, just like anything else, they're not open to learning. They're not, they haven't didn't have that gene, that experience you had where it's like, I know I can be good at something, right? You get something that's really, really hard. It's really hard to see. It's really hard to understand. And you're like, I'm already good at a lot of stuff. I'm done.
Yeah.
Right. So somebody else can do this.
I'm not starting from scratch again.
I'm not starting from scratch again. Yeah. So that takes a different kind of person. I mean, there's a lot of people that are like that. And I think I think just in general, if a doctor is an athlete or has been an athlete, or, then they're a little bit more likely to say, hell, I can be good at something else.
Up for the challenge and enjoying a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to see if I can do this.
Yeah. And, it's just more ways. It's always just more ways to help people, so you're always, I think everybody who's really looking to help is just like, being an athlete, like, okay, I want to be really good at this. Am I missing something over here? Because if I miss something, somebody else is going to get it. They're going to be ahead of me. If you're being an actor, whatever you're trying to be an expert as, you want to see as many perspectives, as many different points of view to see what the truth is. And, not everybody's willing to do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. You have to come outside of yourself, and you have to say, I'm probably wrong. Yeah. And I think some of us are in that state where it's like, if I'm wrong, that's great because I'm going to learn something. Yeah. And some of us, some people are, if I'm wrong, well, I just can't be wrong. I can't handle being wrong. Yeah. So I can't be wrong. So I'm wrong, always right. But then it's just really, how do you deal with that person? Well, they can't learn. It's hard to teach them. If you can teach them, it's very challenging. So yeah, I think that definitely probably most actors are willing to look at things from different points of view, I hope, but most physicians are as well. But there's always people that get to a point where like, they just decide they're done. Like, I know what I know and I'm done. So
that's when you stop living. You should spend the rest of your life wanting to learn things.
Exactly.
One language or like you said, if it's within your profession, always wanting to improve and find new ways. And I mean, there's a saying in the acting, like, don't be afraid to fail. Because as soon as you try to make anything perfect, it's not going to be very good. Right. If you take a chance and the consequences for failing are nothing in acting. You just do it again. Or people go, oh, that wasn't quite right. Yeah, so, and as long as you check your ego and go, okay, that didn't work, try this. That didn't work, try this. Don't be afraid to suck.
Right, exactly. Because the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. Yes. And of course, in my profession, sometimes there's no mistakes allowed, but you can gradually work your way up to where you're comfortable in a place you're not going to make a mistake. Right. I think in a lot of things, no mistakes are allowed, and no mistakes are good in snowboarding. No. That's, there are consequences. There are consequences for a lot of things. A lot of sports, motocross, it's just there's consequences. I always think as a doctor looking at people doing sports, I'm like, okay, why don't you ski instead of snowboard? Because skiing, you fall on your side, you fall on your hip. Snowboarding is only falling forward. Head,
you're locked in.
Head, hands, wrist, back, glute, tailbone, coccyx. It's like it's either there's one direction or another direction. Yeah, and people are great at it. It's amazing. I love the sport, but yeah, just you get to somebody for me like, oh, do I want to go do that sport? I like the sport I'm doing. I'm not gonna take that one on because
10 years of ski racing going upwards of 90 miles per hour. Yeah. I hyperextended my knee once. That was pretty much the extent of my injuries. In 4 years of snowboarding, I knocked myself out maybe 6 times, 3 times in 1 year, and probably got like 6 concussions. Oh, yeah. Broke my wrist twice, fractured my tailbone, broke both my feet. It's an unforgiving, just mackerel slap.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I see it. I feel it. I see it in other people, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to start doing that now. But it's a learning experience, and I think there's always consequences. Now, when you have that kind of head injury, do you feel like you had some motor loss, psychological stress, anxiety after those? I mean, that's pretty common for our special forces guys. Usually if you have a guy who's not a Navy SEAL and he's in a really bad situation, he gets PTSD. But you got a Navy SEAL, he's in a really bad situation, and he gets a head injury, then he gets PTSD. But just being in a bad situation is like, well, they're trained to be in a bad situation. They're ready. They expect a bad situation. But when you have that impact to your nervous system and you have stressors on top of that, you decompensate it a little bit more, so it's harder to get through. So, I'm sure that's an issue for a lot of people. One of the athletes we worked with, had it's like 4 loss of consciousness concussions, and she was, I was maybe cliff diving. I think it was snowboarding actually.
Yep.
I don't remember what they all were, but enough to say that, she was dysfunctional, they never balanced, didn't have coordination. And, emotionally it's hard to not think clearly. So that's one of the things we end up doing, stellates for, and that other things as well. But, it's, as a person who has never really been that close to it, I think I could have never understood how much disability there is that people can have from those just repeated concussions. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, though, when we tested her, we did electroencephalograms on her. Even though she was like, I'm not right, I can't think right, my balance is not right, my coordination is not right, she still scored better than almost every doctor we tested. Because being an athlete is, being an elite athlete, she was a world champion athlete. She had a superior nervous system compared to other people, And I think the thing that happens with athletes a lot of times is you only have so much energy. And if you put so much energy into your sport rather than your studies, then you think, I must not be smart because I'm not really that great at these studies. I'm like, no, you're just, all your energy has been focused in one way, but you have a great nervous system, obviously. So if you took the recovery into consideration, you could be great at everything, And I think that's, I'm not sure if you have any experiences that tie along with those stories.
Well, I mean, as far as focus and stuff goes, I mean, I was always focused on athletics and physical way more than I was on academics. Yeah. Art caught my attention. I was a very good artist. So I just kind of followed that path and followed the path of least resistance, I guess. I quit trying to force myself into math classes and things where I was miserable and I wasn't motivated. I wasn't inspired, And I think that goes a long way too. I think, I was capable. School wasn't that hard for me. I just wasn't inspired and I wasn't motivated.
Yeah.
But along the way, I found the things that lit my fire, that made me want to pursue and want to work hard. And, it wasn't the traditional path, but it got me to where I am. And, I to your point about the head trauma and stuff, I don't know, I do go through, I think everybody as an adult goes through, their ups and downs and things. And I've definitely experienced my fair share of depression and anxiety and whether it was because of the head injuries I've experienced in the past, I don't know, or if it was because of life circumstance.
Yeah.
But the stellate ganglet block that I've had in the past has definitely addressed and helped out a lot. And, recently I've been going through a bit of a slump, even though life's great. Yeah. There's no reason. I mean, my life is great right now. Yeah. So I could use a little bit of a nudge though.
Yeah. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So
always happy to give the nudge to get to the other side of all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when we look back, I mean, we looked a lot of the past, and now looking at it as your life as, I guess the primary thing, is it fair to say, is acting in your life right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with it further? Are you happy with where everything is going? I mean, you're in a lot of movies. You're working pretty steadily. Mm-hmm. What would you like to see the future be?
Well, what's the great thing about acting is, so I have a fairly steady job now. I've got a contract with a network called Great American Family, and we make a lot of family-friendly TV movies. So I get a couple of those a year, guaranteed. I know my parents can watch them, my great aunt and uncle and cousins, and everybody can. They're fun for the whole family. So I'm really grateful for that. As far as it being, and then that frees up my time and me and my finances to be able to go out and pursue more passion projects, things that may not pay as well but are challenging. But the great thing about acting is you're constantly being able to do different things, constantly switching things up. Nothing gets boring, nothing gets stagnant. I get to experience different things, step in different people's shoes. So I'm just constantly looking for something different than the last. And But if I were to say, if I could do one genre for the rest of my life, it'd be Westerns. If I could just
Oh, yeah.
ride horses
Yeah.
and be back in the 1800s for the rest of my life, I would choose that for sure.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's the ocean or the mountains, and if there's in the mountains, there's horses.
Yeah.
And if there's by the ocean, then there better be a board around somewhere.
Better be a board and hopefully not a shark.
Hopefully not a shark. All right. I think it's been great.
Cool.
We did covered a lot of things. Anything you want to cover?
No, I feel like I talked about myself a lot.
Yeah, that's the whole idea, right?
Yeah. I guess.
It's how to learn. We're learning how to be. Every human has a different experience. So, obviously, you've been a very successful person in your life. I mean, so it's good to have other people have that point of view. Like, hey, this is how I came up.
Yeah.
This is how I learned. If your philosophy going forward, you're talking to a young kid coming up. What would you want to tell somebody?
Well, I think I touched on a little bit. I think there's a real benefit to school, to learning things you're not excited about. There's, you learn discipline. You're not always going to do things that you want to do. That's part of life. So I think really learning those things in school, I think school is really good for that. But I also think as you transition to adulthood and you start thinking about what you want to do for the rest of your life, find the things that inspire you, find the things that bring you joy, find the things that interest you. We all have it. And for me, it wasn't traditional. I didn't like going to class, but I loved art. I loved music. I loved something about that. I loved athletics. I loved helping people and being around good people. There was things that really excited me and that really made me passionate. So, as you become an adult, find those things that make you passionate and go after them 100%, because that's what you'll be good at. You're going to be miserable if you chase something that you don't enjoy.
Oh yeah. And how about advice for a young person who wants to get into acting, or, what would you say to them? I mean, that's a crazy thing to try to want to get into. I think.
Yeah. Well, speaking to the young kid, again, if you love it, do it. Speaking to the parents of that young kid, it's a tough business to bring children into. And I've worked with some amazing kids that have played my son or my daughter. And I've talked to the parents a lot, and actually most of the parents are all on the same page. They go, we let them do the school plays, we let them do this little family-friendly movie, but we're not going to push them into these big child star situations, because it's a hard thing to transition into adulthood. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, encourage your children to do what they love to do, but definitely don't make them grow up too fast.
Yeah,
that's
great. Now, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, like producer, act, director for a show, how would they get a hold of you?
Getting a hold of me, social media is great. Instagram is just Trevor Donovan with that little blue thing that makes me official. Or IMDb has all my contact information too, so you can find me on IMDb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Super appreciate it.
Thank you so
my
much,
great
Sean.
honor to share a little bit of time on here.
Thank you. It was
And
my pleasure.
hopefully, I think you're going to help some people. This little talk.
I hope so.
All right.
That's what it's all about.
All right.